in UK and Colombia. It was Columbia and Cambridge in UK. And for the longest time, I couldn't decide which one I wanted to go. This was also the year 2020. And it so happened that I had applied for my visa for UK and everything. I couldn't decide till the last minute. I tried making as many preparations as I could. And then Cambridge announced that they were going to do online classes for the whole year, irrespective of how the pandemic was going to progress. And you had to come to UK, sit in their university dorms and do online classes, which didn't make so much sense for me. They were not allowing us to defer the admission either. So I had to withdraw my application from there. Thankfully, Colombia let us defer, and I ended up going in 21. If given a choice, I would not be able to choose between the two. So that's why I say that Colombia chose me. I didn't do anything about the decision. It's a choice I couldn't make.
But you're happy that you went
I genuinely am. I think, I mean, not that this is the purpose of the session, but what they say, that sometimes life works out for the better, and like life has a plan, and this is one big example of that. I might not have chosen the US because it's much more expensive also compared to the UK for a master's degree, but the things I've taken away from there are things that now I can understand that UK education wouldn't have given me.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Okay, how about the campus? How was it? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So the Columbia campus is in the city of New York. So you're living in the heart of it. For those familiar with New York, you will still hear people arguing that Columbia is upstate New York, whereas NYU is in like the tip of New York, where all your commercial centers and financial district is there, which is true. But having said that, what I really liked about Columbia was that it has a campus. For that matter, university in a city like New York, it's not that easy for them to have like such a huge campus, which we did. You have these very old traditional buildings, which look very historic from the outside, but from the inside, it's completely modernized. And you have the top, you have the best facilities possible, and the campus has a charm. So for example, right now, when it's February, and I'm talking about last February, you'll have New York is going through this weather change where the winters are dying out and the summer is just going to come in and all of that. And you have these very famous steps there. And you have the whole campus sitting there and just enjoying music, just enjoying the sun. Again, it's something you would not see in an Indian campus, for example. So the campus-wise, it's like 10 on 10.
That's nice. That's nice. Okay, and did you take part in any activities besides studying for your masters?
It is very difficult to not take part in activities there because every single day they will organize something or the other for students. You also have to understand that I was a master's student, which means I was there for just a year. So I was more proactive in taking part in activities, and because that's a way to meet more people. Maybe students for undergraduate or who are there for a longer time have more course assignments or the priorities a little different. So I don't know how much you can engage in that along with that work pressure which comes from a different kind of course. But having said that, the campus organizes everything you can think of, from like stress releasing activities such as they'll get dogs from shelters which you can cuddle, to like a painting session, to thousands of seminars calling prominent speakers on every topic you can possibly think of, music, dance, salsa classes. There's everything, and all of it is included in your in the fees that you pay, which is a different piece, but it's all included. And so you get a lot of exposure otherwise also. It's not just academic.
Okay, and all these activities happen within the campus, or they take you off campus as well, right?
It depends on your program. For undergraduates, it's more on campus, but for postgraduates, it was outside, it was both inside and outside the campus. Also, the fact that once you cross a certain age, say in like once you're above 21, you can drink. So they have a lot of these activities planned in pubs and bars. A lot of the social events are also around that. So it depends on the program.
Okay, all right. So, while you were studying, like, was there any facility, like, let's say, a library or a computer center where you could sit and work till late if you wanted to?
I think, if I'm not wrong, Columbia has around 15 to 16 libraries, which are common, which means irrespective of the kind of program whichever program you're doing in the University of Columbia, you can go to those libraries. Along with that, schools have this, but they're not chasing you around. But they're not chasing you around the corridors, uh, asking why you didn't come to class. So that puts the burden on you. And of course, when you're doing a master's, I believe your approach is somewhat different from somebody who's doing an undergraduate degree. It's something, when you're doing a master's, you have voluntarily chosen to put yourself there and to pay for that kind of an education. With that comes the responsibility that you want to make the most out of it. So that way, that way your approach to the education is different. You want to make the most out of it. You want to attend the most classes, the most webinars, seminars, interact with the most. So the burden that you take is your own. It will not happen that you fail a class. That's you have to be like really, really, really bad to fail a class there. Because they're gonna give you makeup assignments, or they're gonna help you out, or whatever it is. But the pressure is more internal rather than external.
Okay, that's very interesting because the last webinar we had, our ex-student, she studied design. She said exactly the same thing. She said you have to monitor your own education, like you have to be proactive. I mean, you won't have a teacher running after you. So that's very interesting that you've actually repeated the same thing.
Absolutely. And you have to also understand the kind of education system there. It's not compulsory for everybody to go to college outside. In fact, a lot of people don't, uh, either because they are not academically inclined, or they don't see the use, or they don't have the funds. So whoever is going to college and taking on either that student loan or that responsibility is doing it because they want to do it. They see some kind of a value addition to it. Once you're surrounded by people like that, it's very hard to not fall in line.
Okay. May I ask, why did you wait for 3 years to follow your master's?
I actually didn't wait. Like I said before, I wanted to do it 1 year after I joined my work. I got through, and then I waited another year because
for because
of the pandemic.
Of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get it. Also, for international students like yourself, was there any kind of support, any society that would help you out?
I would actually say that the number of societies there to help international students is way more than you would anticipate. They have a society for almost every kind of diversity you can think of, be it Asian, be it international, be it vegetarian, be it somebody who speaks multiple languages. There's a vegan society. There's people who, I mean, and what happens is that you have these societies are also run by people who have that heritage. So they will always make sure that all important events are celebrated, and then they don't limit it to the people of that heritage, which means that when I was there and Diwali came, people from even from all parts of, like, my friends who were Europeans were also celebrating Diwali with us. There is absolutely no dearth of the support you would get. They also try to do the system where they try to link you up with a mentor of some kind who also belongs to the same cultural background as you. So you get, so you form a better connection. But and then they have this, like I said, they also celebrate the diversity. So say right now there's a Black Heritage Month, for which the societies which represent the Black people there will hold multiple events, not only to celebrate but also to promote awareness.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, like, were you part of some society?
Yeah, I was part of the Asian society. There was an Indian society. There was a Hindu society. Uh, there's a association for colored women in law. Then there's I think it's. Can you hear me? I think.
Yeah, I can.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a colored women of color in law society. There's a society for empowering women of color in general. Doesn't have to be limited to law. I was part of all of these, and they hold massive events. They hold massive networking opportunities, and the biggest part is you can always approach any member of the club or the society, and they'll always uplift you because they're all going through the same challenges.
So you would say it's helpful to be part of these societies?
Yes, I would say so, yes. And it's not like a lot of work, if that's what somebody's concern is. Because I've seen that a lot of times in India, when you have these societies, they give you work. Okay, can you do this for us? Can you do that? That is not how it works there. It is completely voluntary, and what they are looking for is to build a community which will outlast your years in the university. It doesn't have to be just for 3 years or 5 years or however much.
Oh, so am I to understand that you are still part of the societies if you wish to be?
Yeah. You're a part for life.
Okay, all right. And what about the medical facilities? Like, how did that work out? Did the university only arrange for it, or?
So, say for a lot of U.S. universities, they ask you to get a medical insurance upon your arrival. Again, it is part of the tuition fees that they take, which is very, very important because the medical expenses there are are exorbitant. If you get into any kind of medical emergency, it's exorbitant. So you have to take, like, not only is it compulsory to take the insurance, it's fruitful too. Having said that, the flip side, if I'm being very honest, the flip side is that they charge you around $1,500 for it, and if you've not run into any kind of medical emergency, it's a waste. I mean, of course, you don't want to run into a medical emergency, which is different, but it was something that was compulsory, but it didn't. We, at least for 1 year, we didn't get to use it. It's also chargeable every year. So that. But having said that, at least a fuss. I was actually not impressed by the medical facilities. Columbia, for example, had its medical, like a mini hospital kind of a setup inside campus. Again, open for all students of the university, not just law school. And it was very difficult to get an appointment. You would get an appointment for minimum after 3 weeks. If there's an emergency, you're just like, you pretty much can't go to them. Yeah, you have to pay on your own and get it reimbursed of sorts. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, it's like you can't even go outside for medical help until it's an absolute emergency, because you want to be referred from the Columbia doctors to go seek treatment outside. Only then will you get reimbursed. So it was a lot of medical facilities like is a real is like you don't want to get into a medical emergency there. But having said that, I do have to say that they did provide us COVID vaccinations for free. Our second for whoever, so because my program was an international one, not all countries had access to the vaccination in the beginning of August of 21. So whoever wanted to get vaccination could get the first and the second dose there for free, and the third dose, which happened in January of 2022, after the 2022 was also on Colombia. So, and then they had, for example, they gave us a free COVID test.
Oh, all right. All right. So let me ask you something about scholarships. If you have any idea at all, like how would you go about getting a scholarship in Colombia?
So again, I can speak only for my program, which is when you fill in your application, they ask if you want to apply for a scholarship. If you select yes, then there's a separate form in which you have to fill up your reasons for getting the scholarship. You have to submit documents like income proof, of your parents, of yourself. You also have to show some kind of documents to that you've tried arranging from funds from elsewhere, and that's the process basically. And it's also given to very few people, around 1 or 2 a year, and then also only your tuition is forgiven, not your living and accommodation. Sorry, living, like food costs, food, books, and accommodation is not included.
Okay, all right. And what would you suggest to our future students? Like, should they do their undergraduate in India and then do their post-graduation abroad, or should it be that way around?
I would, so it really depends on the kind of the stream that you want to take. For example, if you do a law degree, you do a law or a medical degree, you want to do law or MBB, or you want to do law, MBBS, yeah, and you choose to do that from abroad, then you have to come back in India and give a qualifying exam to practice here. So it really doesn't make that much sense. You should then do these degrees from abroad only if you're very certain that you want to stay there and practice there. And you also need to be careful that it takes much more time to get qualified there in their program. So for a law degree, to get a law degree in the US, you'll need to do minimum 6 years of studying. So you have to complete your undergraduate and then do a postgraduate in law, which is what they call which they also refer to as LLB. So there it takes 6 years. Here it takes 5 years. Um, Similarly, for medical also, if I'm not mistaken, it takes around 7 years, and in India it takes 5.5. So, and then, like I said, you have to come back and give a qualifying exam. For other streams, it really again depends on what you want to do. But I do advise this. If you choose to grow, if parents, and I believe we have some parents with us today, right? I would suggest, when you decide to send your child abroad, you should also judge whether they have the maturity to understand the opportunities they have been given. As a master's student, I had already, not only I had finished my undergraduate and I had worked, so I knew the kind of, I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew the importance of not only the funds but also my time that I was investing.
Yeah.
Without that, sending a child abroad is, I mean, of course they're going to learn stuff. Why will they not? But then it's also not something that is worth the money you'd be paying for. Uh, if you think your child has that maturity to understand that at 18 or 19, please go ahead. But if not, I can completely vouch for the fact that any Indian university, like a good Indian university, is nowhere at less par compared to Ivy League in US. You don't have to stay in this bubble that, oh, I have to send my kid to an Ivy League for undergraduate. They are gonna become the superstars. There are multiple ways of reaching that superstar position, whichever it might be for you. And doing an undergrad from abroad is not necessary for that. But having said that, when I was growing up, this was a challenge I used to face, which is India did not have a lot of undergraduate universities which offered flexibility in the kind of subjects you wanted to take, which is that we had these fixed commerce, fixed science, fixed humanities stream. What an education abroad offers you is that flexibility. So, if, say somebody is not decided what they want to do, then an undergraduate degree from abroad really helps because they get to try out everything after they've understood that,
Yeah.
okay, like once they start understanding what is it that they want from their life. But again, this was around 10 years ago now. From what I hear, universities like Jindal, Amity are all offering these flexible courses now to students. So again, if these universities are nowhere bad, and having studied at Jindal and then Columbia, I can tell you Jindal, for that matter, is at least facility wise, it is at par.
All right. Okay. And would you like to give any tips on the application process or the essays that were written while you were going through the application process?
Tips I mean, the first thing has to be you should start early. Absolutely start early. That's very, very important because irrespective of the number of hours and time you give, you will always feel like something is missing, something is left at the last moment. So absolutely start early. The second thing is I would strongly suggest that do keep a tab of things yourself also. The counselors at Proed are very, very helpful and very, very helpful. But at the same time, somebody should also understand that they are also managing a number of other students. So, somewhere being vigilant of your application at the end of the day, if you are serious about this, you should also be as involved in the process as you can be. And as for the essays, I would suggest know your strengths and your weaknesses. For example, I knew that I might have had the material. I might have had the material in the qualifications, but I was not very good at writing my own essay. I was not very good at marketing myself, which is why I enrolled with ProEd. So, have your have a system, like know what your strengths are and then work accordingly. That should, and if you do that, it should work out for you.
Okay. That was really helpful. Thank you. So may I ask, did you live on campus or you lived outside while you were there?
I lived on campus, but also undergraduate on campus and postgraduate on campus are two different things. For undergraduate, post campus, you're literally living like in a big camp, in near the your school's building, in a dorm system. For postgraduate, what happens is they put you in buildings, say, owned or managed by Columbia or affiliated with Columbia, and they have studios or they have like 2 sharing, 3 sharing apartments, but you get a lot, but it's not dorm style.
Okay. All right. And then since you stayed back to sit for the New York bar exam, I'm guessing you moved out and you got a place of your own.
No, thankfully, these universities now, they knew that a lot of students for the bar, so they let you extend the housing for another 2 months. But you had to move out like 2 days after the bar exam got over, which was very, very stressful. But I mean, at least they didn't make you search for apartments between your preparation.
While you were prepping. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And then now to ask something personal, how was the food situation there? Did you have any problems? So
I didn't as such. I was also very mentally prepared because I had done a semester abroad also, so I was I knew what to expect. And I'm a vegetarian and I'm a vegan, so I used to cook a lot of my food. I would also do that because one, I could avoid the fatty food, it's fatty uh, junk and fast food culture which US has. So I would cook my own food, and the second reason I would do it is because it helped me save a ton of money. Cooking for yourself, it takes suppose it takes like 1 hour a day for to if you plan it well. And I would do that, and then I mean I think my cost of living drastically went down. You have to understand that any meal you have there will not be less than $15 to $16, which means even if you're having like a simple salad, which you think is like the cheapest thing, that if you convert will still come to around $1,000, 1,000 Indian rupees. So it's something you cannot afford to do on the regular. And when you're outside, and again, my program was for a year, so I really wanted to go meet people. So when you plan a night out, you will by default land up spending. You will spend on transport, you will spend on either entrance fee of some kind, and you will spend on food. So for me, any food expense that happened was kept for these outings. The rest I would manage on my own. I did not face any such problem. Again, I'm not completely the right person to say this, because since I'm vegan, I used to get tofu very easily. So I didn't face any problem, but I do know a lot of Indians were craving paneer, which was a little inaccessible at times. Non-vegetarians had almost no problem. Also, there are tons of Indian and Pakistani food joints. So, if you're willing to spend, you'll get the food.
Okay, all right. Okay. And lastly, can you tell us what did you miss the most of about India when you were there?
I missed the cup of coffee you get when you're on your bed. The first thing that you can get, because somebody in the house will give it to you. That's that's the thing I missed the most. It was so bad. I finally had to order a coffee machine. I was like, you can't spend on coffee every day. You can't spend $5-6 on the morning coffee and then the evening coffee. So I landed up buying a coffee maker, which was not really required, but was required. And after that, my life became 1,000 times easier. But I think I missed my cup of coffee. And I missed my driver, because also something that nobody tells you about New York is there's a lot of walking. A lot of walking. It's very well connected by the subway, so that's a different thing. You will love walking around the city and all of that. But say from my accommodation, Columbia, like my law school, was 7 minutes uphill walk, and you could not take a bus or like a subway. Like, that was not possible. And that was one of the that was very, very grueling, especially in the snow. So you miss the luxuries that India offers. Otherwise, it's really good. And like I said, that's why I recommend some people should definitely go outside at least once.
Yeah, true. All right, Ayushi, I am done with my round of questions. Thank you so much for answering them.
Absolutely.
Would it be all right if I ask guests to ask you questions?
Yeah, sure.
All right, everyone, the floor is all yours. Please go ahead with your questions and queries.
What did you finally specialize in?
Ma'am, I didn't have to specialize. So thankfully, Columbia has this policy. They again make you can take any and every subject you want. So I took up very interesting courses. I took up one on negotiation. I took up something on international law. I did human rights. I did real estate. I did one on gender. Everything that I had a remote interest in.
Okay. So you just like did your choice of subjects.
Yes, which is a very nice thing. Again, very few universities offer this. NYU, for example, doesn't offer this. SMU doesn't offer this.
That's fantastic. I think this choice to do what you want and not do a straight-jacketed degree is fantastic.
Yes.
Did you pick up modules from any of the other schools, like the Columbia Business School or the other?
So the negotiation one was in collaboration with the business school. I was trying to do one with their public administration school, but there were some glitches this year with regarding to this cross admission, which is why I wasn't able to do it. But a lot of my friends did, and they really enjoyed the courses.
Okay. So, I mean, what was your biggest takeaway from the course? Like, what is it that you feel you learned, which besides, of course, living and studying abroad, the exposure, And of course, the US exposure is fantastic. But besides that, like, what would you say is your greatest takeaway from the course, whether education or otherwise? Like, uh,
So I think what I was most surprised by, say, for example, was how everybody there has a completely different take on the same reading, for example. So I would say this is from a class which I did on civil rights and civil liberties, which is basically uh, which is basically say related to a little bit of gender, like gun control, abortion, whether there should be what we understand as reservation in school systems, all of those. And we would read the cases and the readings and go, and it was so everybody had such different perspectives. I would sometimes start wondering if we've read the same document, and maybe I've read like a wrong reading. So the fact that two people can read something so dramatically opposite to each other, it really opens your mind to the fact that different viewpoints do exist. And this
yeah,
is very important in today's world because I mean, I'm sure we're aware that, we have this concept of polarized view, which comes from the fact that the more content you consume, similar content keeps coming up.
yeah,
So to realize that fact that okay, these opposite views can exist, and then also realizing that they're actually not that opposite, or they're not that irrational just because they're opposite to yours. That is one of the biggest takeaways.
So, do you feel cultural diversity was responsible for these different perspectives, or do you think what was responsible for this? Or was it just you was it just different individuals that contributed to these different perspectives?
I I think it's a mixture of both, because um, see, there was just one class of mine which had only one person who was a person of color. The rest were all pretty much white males, for
Okay.
example. But even within the white males, I could see a lot of diversity in opinion. So it
Mhm.
doesn't naturally have to do with culture. It was their personality and whatever their life experiences have been. But then at the same time, the one person who was a person of color, and then two, three of us who were LLM students who were then, basically we've come from a different country and completely different place in the world. We had different opinions of ourselves, again, colored by what we think.
Yeah.
So it's a mixture of both.
Okay. And what was
But
the
what is
culture?
good is,
Yeah.
sorry, but what is good is that everybody is very tolerant there.
Okay.
I mean, see, it can also be fake tolerism. I'm not going to discount that. You can't really go and say in public that, oh, this is bad, I don't agree. But at least on the face of it, people are listening.
Okay. And what was the diversity like in your class? Like, how many people, how many countries?
So in my class, an LLM is a completely international program. I think there were students from around 53 countries.
Wow.
And yeah, and then we had around 350 to 360 students.
So practically five from each country.
Yeah, practically.
Was there a predominance of any particular country?
There was Brazil had 43, India had 42.
Okay. Okay. So those were the two highest.
Yeah,
And how come Chinese weren't there? Because they're also,
they were, but they were, I don't know, for whatever reason, they were not in predominance this time.
I think they're more into STEM. So that must be the reason.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. The government doesn't encourage non-STEM. This is non-STEM. So,
I also think it has to do with the fact that uh, their system of law is very, very, very different from ours. So for like, I know, I mean, a lot of people still ask me why I did a master's from US and how will that apply to India. But what they don't understand is actually the law system is same. We've all derived it from UK. It's a they have a very geopolitical reason for not acknowledging Indian legal system as the same as theirs.
okay.
But it's not really that different.
Okay.
So having because of that, just think Chinese legal system is very different, so they really wouldn't find a you.
Okay. Okay. And I also guess I guess this will increase, you know, it's also increasing, their horizons. No, that's something the Chinese government is scared of.
Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
against them. And so the 350 people. So how do you manage? I mean, are the lecture halls really big, or does it like get divided into the classes you choose? So then it's a relatively smaller cohort.
So it's a little bit of both. They have this system of lectures which are huge. So you can have like 100, 200 people sitting. And you also have to understand that it's not just LLMs, it's also their law school people. So because you study with the American citizens who are doing law there.
Okay.
So it's a mix of both. These classes do have an upper limit of the number of students you will have, which is usually like say 200 students, and it's a lecture system, so it doesn't matter. The professor is
Okay.
teaching, you have to listen. Of course, you can talk, but it's not like a question answer interactive kind of a module. And the other one you have is something called a seminar, which is limited to 18 students. So when your semester starts, you have something like a bidding system, and you have to take up the ones you really want. You prioritize that on your list, and you take those.
Okay. And seminar is where you get real access to your tutor.
Yeah, real access plus it's only 18 people. So the class is also small. There's more discussion, but I will still say it doesn't really matter because the the topics for which they give seminars is something that requires discussion of a different level compared to the topics for which they hold the classes. Too much scope of discussion. Having said that, nowhere did I feel that the professor was still not approachable, even if he was teaching 200 people.
Okay. So you have enough access to them as much as you want.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And they hold office hours. They're always available on email. They actually want you to come interact.
Okay. And how easy or difficult is it as an Indian to hang around with others? Because there's a tendency I've noticed in most students to hang around with Indians even when they go abroad. So were you able to break this barrier?
I had absolutely no Indian friends. I had one.
Okay.
I had absolutely none. I was done with Indian people. I was like, 1 year I will not interact with Indian people. Then I have to go back to India only.
Yeah.
So no, it is difficult. It is also difficult because what happens? I will say this. It's not what I think. Maybe this is an advice which is not given to people who are going abroad that time. Your first 2 weeks decide your friend circle, and once you're in. So the first 2 weeks, you should mingle with everybody, find out people you resonate with to a certain level, and then stick it out. Because 2 week में जो group form हो जाता है, उसके बाद nobody can really move into your group or out of your group. What happens is that in the beginning, Indians are very busy meeting other Indians and trying to get to know, Acha, are you from Delhi? Are you from Bombay? Are you from Gurgaon? And then they stick to that. And and I get why, because they're also a little homesick, or they're scared, or they're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And because they don't interact in the beginning, this group starts forming, and then they have to ride it out the whole year.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you break that pattern in the beginning, nobody is not receptive to having people from other countries. Nobody is.
Okay.
I know a lot of Indian groups who had people from other countries. I was a part of an international group. So it's not people who are creating those barriers.
Okay. So they're open and receptive to making friends from
Absolutely.
different countries. That's great.
Again, you have to understand, master's program is very different from an undergraduate program. Undergraduate program, when you're there for 3 years, you are looking for that comfort. So there's nothing wrong if you want to stay with Indians for the next 3 years, or you want to have a person from India or Pakistan or Asia as your roommate. You need that comfort when you're away from home for 3 years.
Yeah.
But as a student who went abroad for just 1 year, I didn't want that comfort. and everybody in the master's program is looking to meet more people from different countries because that is what you paid for. More or less, whoever comes for masters have worked for, at least for Columbia, you have to have a minimum work ex for 2 years. Most people had at least 5-6 years. I had 3, which was one of the least work experience.
Wow.
So, these people they already know the law. They know how it works. They are too much into the profession. So when they come here, they come for a different reason. They have not come here per se to study law, black letter law.
Okay. So what is the reason that they come for? Like, just to...
This one is they want to meet people from other countries. They want to know this. So see, their personal reason can also be something like they wanted to take a break. They work for 6-7 years, they want a break, and they know they're gonna go back and they're gonna make partners in these firms and this and that, and the life is gonna get caught up. So they want a break. Some people do it because they want to settle in the US. You need this master's degree to and then clear the bar in order to practice in the US. So they do it for it. And some people just do it for the exposure. They do it because it's something they want to do for themselves, like which is what it was for me. So it really depends on what you want, but all of them have this in mind. Nobody is, especially in a master's level program, nobody is closed कि अच्छा ये दूसरे country से मैं बात नहीं करूँगा.
That's not there.
No. I did experience that at least.
And how would you say you've applied the program besides the exposure that you've received, like at your workplace? Do you think you do things differently now or approach something differently because of this academic background or this education that you've acquired? Do you feel different from the others in the office in your approach to work? Is there something that has changed there?
Yeah, I think for one, I am not scared to ask questions anymore. So sometimes what I used to face is maybe I have not completely understood the assignment or the point of the work that I've been given. Now I ask straightforward because I've realized, okay, it doesn't matter so much. Like I can ask, I've become more open in my communication. And also the fact that, you start thinking differently. It's very difficult to explain. But initially you look at any assignment as, okay, this I have to do this because they've asked me to do it. But now you start questioning, okay, what is the point of how can I do it in a way which is, useful to me and to the other person? What can I gain out of it? How can I make this simpler, or how can I make it more profitable? So you start also, I don't know how, but you start having a little bit of a business acumen also.
Okay. So that's a very unusual, because basically when you're working, you just do the assignment given and you don't really think so far, into the process.
Yeah, but like that's why I said that when once you go for your master's and you realize, okay, your time is worth something, then you start applying that to all aspects of life.
So did you feel like this like what you're saying that you develop sort of like a business acumen towards your assignments and stuff? So do you think this comes from your graduation course or your exposure 1 year that you had?
A little bit of both, because of course the exposure is a big part of it. Now I have 24 hours in a day. I know 3 hours will go in, say, cooking, cleaning the house, arranging stuff, laundry, groceries, whatever. 3 hours is gone, 8 hours of sleep is gone. You have a limited number of hours in which you want to do a lot of things, which is assignment and the socializing part of it. You can't discount the socializing aspect of a master's degree. As soon as you see that, you start prioritizing and you start thinking, okay, what is most important? What is the one thing I have to do today, and what is the one thing I can postpone to tomorrow? As soon as you start looking at things that way, it will come into your work ethic also, because you'll start thinking, okay, should I prioritize this or should I prioritize that? And and of course your education there also has to play a role, because you have assignments due for all subjects at all times. Even if you don't have to submit something, you have to read for the next class, which is a lot of reading. So you again have to prioritize there. You have to understand, okay, say I have 4 hours, I can't do both. Which one do I do first?
Okay. Yeah, and then you also mentioned that you're responsible for yourself, your own education. I think that also like percolates down to your other parts of life.
Yes.
Anybody, any other questions?
Okay, great.
So you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
You've gone back to Argus, or where are you now?
Yes, I've gone back to August.
Okay. They must be very happy to have you.
Yeah.
Any plans of leaving Calcutta and coming to Delhi or Gurgaon, Ayushi?
Not Delhi, Gurgaon, ma'am. I'm thinking of shifting to Bombay, so let's see.
I remember your essays, you wanted to set up partnership firms all over, set up your own law.
Yeah, that's why like now I'm planning to move to Bombay, learn the work.
Okay. You're shifting to another firm or through Argus?
I'm contemplating. I'm thinking of other firms for now, but let's see. Like I don't have any. Abhi, I'm there till March for sure. So I will ride out this financial year and then we'll see. Okay.
All right, then, if nobody has any more questions. All right, Ayushi, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for attending. And it's been really helpful, very informative. All the very best for your future.
Thank you.
And thank you once again. Thank you, everyone, for your
Thank you for your
participation.
time.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right.